are you doing?
You've got the bloody football game beat, bloody not switched on.
Why don't you think, man?
Fantastic!
Healy off, Ellingworth on. Bloody weak as piss.
I don't know much about this, what's going on. My mates have refused to tell me.
I mean, don't look at me like that. How many kicks have you got? That's the answer to everything. Possessions. You give me possessions and I'll shut up.
Oh yeah, there's been no more famous name in Australian rules football than Ron Barassi.
And you probably don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? That's bloody right.
I couldn't think of anybody better to have a night like this.
It's all over.
I know he lived with Norm Smith, and Norm Smith has always been, you know, my number one as a mentor, such a thing. And if he was alive today, I know he'd be very, very proud of what Ron's done.
You bloke think I'm stirred up? You're bloody right.
He encapsulates all the very best of what Australian rules was and hopefully will be for a long time to come.
You are bloody fierce in your desire to do it right. You do it.
No, I am a bit toey.
Would you please give a big round of applause for our guest of honour, Ronald Dale Barassi. Please put your hands together for our host for this evening, Eddie Maguire.
Good evening, everybody. And what a big 50 years it's been in football for Ronald Dale Barassi. On behalf of Legacy, Easy Bonds, MSA and the Nine Network, welcome to Telstra Dome tonight. We're a record crowd for a sporting tribute night in this country of over 3,000 people have joined us tonight to pay tribute to a giant of the game of Australian football, Ronald Dale Barassi. We also pay tribute tonight to Ron's family, his friends, his teammates and opponents, and all the people who have made the name Barassi synonymous with everything we hold dear to us in this game. 50 consecutive years as a champion player, known for his leadership, tenacity and will to win. As the super coach, the innovator, the media star in print, on radio and television, the administrator, as a selector and a board member, Ron Barassi's vision and capacity to inspire and lead has helped change a local football competition into the premier national sporting code in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt that football has been good for Ron Barassi, but Ron Barassi has been great for football. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight it's all about having a lot of fun. We have got so many people to meet and greet tonight to talk about the life and times of RDB. So on with the show. And to officially open tonight's proceedings, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the chairman of the organising committee, and I can assure you that this organising committee has done a powerful job right the way through in bringing everything together, and that'll become obvious as the night unfolds. Please welcome the chairman of the organising committee, former AFL Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Ross Oakley.
Thanks, Eddie. I'd like to add my welcome to everyone here tonight on behalf of the organising committee, which comprises Bill Shannon, who came up with the idea to honour Ron Barassi, Ron Joseph, who joined with Bill to enlist other friends as members of the committee in the person of Dick Seddon, John Bertrand, Wayne Schimmelbusch, Ian Collins, Graham Pash and Barry Cheatley. The committee particularly welcomes the Governor of Victoria, Mr John Landy, the Premier of Victoria, the Honourable Steve Braxton, Terry Brax, the Deputy Leader, the Honourable John Thwaites, former Premiers, the Honourable John Cain and Nancy Cain, the Honourable Jeff Kennett and Felicity Kennett, the Federal Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Simon Crean and Carol Crean, the Federal Minister for Sport, Senator the Honourable Rod Kemp, General Peter Cosgrove and Lynn Cosgrove, AFL Commissioners and staff here tonight, the President of Legacy, Mr Tony Parks, members of the Australian Sports Hall of Fame, Barassi admirers and fans, and there's many of them here tonight, and most importantly, of course, the Barassi family. We welcome you all. As you'll hear during the evening, Ron Barassi has done so much for our great game. And even though legend Ted Whitten often lightheartedly referred to him as Mrs. Football, Ron Barassi is, no doubt, the biggest name in our 106 years of the VFL AFL.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do have, before I introduce a special guest and we get on to the next part of the evening, a letter, Ron, that is addressed from the Prime Minister's office in Canberra. And it reads, Ron Barassi, 50 years a legend. Ron, due to commitments overseas, I regret that I am not able to be with you tonight, but I wish to join with everyone who is there tonight in warmly congratulating Ron on achieving 50 years of involvement in the AFL. Fittingly, this event is being held to honour Ron's many outstanding achievements as a player, captain and coach, as well as his enormous and enduring contribution to sport, which continues through his involvement with the media and his contribution to his community. Ron's magnificent career as a player and coach is underscored by the fact that, as I understand it, he was involved in 17 AFL Grand Finals for 10 premierships. Throughout his playing and coaching days, Ron was renowned for his immense will to win and for his dedication to his sport. He became a great leader, innovator and motivator, instilling his determination and never say die attitude in others. Australians very much admire Ron's sportsmanship and the example he has set for younger generations. His willingness to take the time to pass on his knowledge and advice to aspiring young sportsmen and women is something which is greatly valued by all those who have had the benefit of his guidance. Ron has made a tremendous contribution to his community away from the sporting field. He has been a great supporter of Legacy and its ongoing work in assisting the dependents of veterans who have died in the service of this country. Ron Barassi was officially recognised as an AFL legend a few years ago. Importantly, however, over the last 5 decades, he has become a legend in the eyes of generations of AFL followers right around the country. He has earned this standing rare in any field because, in addition to his remarkable record of achievement, he has given so much back to the game and to his community. I send my best wishes to Ron and his family. I wish everyone an enjoyable evening. John Howard, Prime Minister Australia. Well, Ron, he was born in Castlemaine Hospital to be exact, on the 27th day of February 1936, and there was born a legend.
We know you come from a soft, bloody, cushy life. But out here, it ain't. It just isn't soft. Because there's a bloke in another jumper always trying to gun you down. And I think we may become a bit like modern society, a bit bloody soft and spoiled.
Nichols leads Carlton. Along with first ruck partner Sergio Silvani, Nichols is playing in a VFL Grand Final for the 4th time. Ron Barassi, on the verge of completing his second 3-year term with Carlton, has an added incentive to steer his team to victory.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kate Sobrano.
Never could explain just what was happening to me. Just one touch of you and I'm aflame. Baby, it's amazing just how wonderful it is. Cause the things we like to do are just the same. Oh yeah, everyone's a winner, baby, that's the truth. Making love to you is such a thrill. one's a winner, baby, that's no lie. You never fail to satisfy. What's happening to me? Just one touch of you and I'm aflame. Yeah, baby, it's amazing just how wonderful it is. 'Cause the things we like to do is just the same. Oh, everyone's a winner, baby, that's the truth. Making love to you is such a thrill. Oh, everyone's a winner, baby, that's no lie. You never fail to satisfy. Oh no. All right, do you know where Ron is? Can you show me? I'm gonna go sit on his lap. Everybody clap your hands, ready? And come on! Oh yeah.
Roll that Melbourne theme song one more time. There's plenty of demons who want to sing it tonight, I'm sure. Tonight we have many heroes of the golden period of the Melbourne Football Club. And posing the questions, the great man himself, the doyen of recent times of Melbourne football. Please welcome Gary Lyon and the champions tonight.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you very much. It's great to be here, in all seriousness. It is a wonderful honour, Ron, a wonderful thrill to be involved in some small way in your great night. Just quickly, my first experience with Ron Barassi, and I was in the weight room and I saw the great man walk in, and I was 16 years of age, I remember it to this day, and he wandered over to me and I thought, listen very intently because you'll remember this for the rest of your life. The moustache was bristling. He strolled up to me and he eyeballed me and he said, "Piss off, son, this is for players only." Tiger, tell us what were your thoughts when the great man did head over to Carlton? I mean, it was huge news at the time, but you'd been through so much with him. What were your thoughts at that time?
Yeah, well, it was big, Gary. As you said, you know, the supporters were destroyed and people in football thought that was the beginning of the end. Good luck to George Harris, who's here tonight. But in actual fact, players understood why he did it. He knew that he wanted to be a coach. He knew that he had to go away to learn the game properly, see how other people did it. And at that stage, there's no way known he would have challenged Norman Smith for the coach anyway. I still love you, Ron.
Good on you, Tiger.
Barassi was a real leader in terms of literature. He's a bit of a leader in terms of social shenanigans too, Gary. There was one, we used to play the Melbourne Premier team would go over and play the Adelaide Premier team, and the Adelaide Premier's grand final was a week after ours. And Ron went across to commentate for the business and stayed on for the week. And when we arrived, he said, "Fellas, it's all organised. Should have got all the air hostesses, all the nurses." This is before Wayne Carey, mind you. I've got all the air hostess, all the nurses on at Paradise Gardens, but don't tell Norm. Right, Ron, right, Ron, right, Ron. Well, as I said, I'm fairly more mature than this young bunch, so I was taking my time over coffee in the dining room of the hotel after the game, and in came Norm, and he said, "Where have they all gone? Tunner, where have they all gone?" I said, "Norm, I'm not meant to tell you." Well, I won't say what Norm said, but the upshot was that Norm and Checker Hughes and I got into a taxi, got out to Paradise Gardens. The party was completely out of control. The noise was floating over the Adelaide suburbs. Norm knocked on the door. Brass opened it with shirt akimbo, glass in the hand. Enter! Oh, Norm! And suddenly the party got under control again and became quite nice.
People say what Norm did for Ron. You could fairly ask the question, what Ron did for Norm. An equal contribution, I think, on both sides.
Well, he was a huge name, Eddie. He was a massive name in the Melbourne Footy Club. And as I said, it's been a long time between drinks for the old Demon supporters. We like to hark back on that golden era and we'll continue to do it. I'm sure Barassi, as much as anyone, would love to see some new premiership history written at Melbourne, but in the meantime, we're happy to sit back and embrace Ronald Dale Barassi and indeed these great men up here on the stage. And what was a golden era, Barassi? Thanks for having us along here tonight. It is a great thrill and a great honour for us all, and we hope you have a wonderful evening.
There would have been other smaller players playing the ruck from time to time, but I think this was the first time that it was seen as a permanent position, and it made a lot of sense. It would be too small to be scary. I can look fierce, but it's all bluff. That was all bluff, you see. With Norm Smith, you know, so fortunate to be finish up so close to him. Straight as a die sort of character, and said it like it was. He didn't muck around. He didn't play favourites, and that's where. If anyone thinks it was easier for me because I lived with the coach, I make a joke of that. You know, that's how I got a game, live with the coach. But in reality, it was probably even a little bit harder because he never wanted anyone to be able to accuse him of favouritism.
And there's the siren. Melbourne wins 8-16-64 to Collingwood's 8-12-60. It's the 12th league flag for Melbourne, the last two of those wins being under the leadership of Ron Barassi.
Melbourne didn't have a lot of superstars, you know. I mean, and to me, that's again just proof of Norm Smith's ability as a coach. I mean, it's such a thrill to be rewarded with your aim for 9 or 10 months' work. I mean, it's just, and it's what you play for. It's a seventh heaven. It's the male seventh heaven. I won't go into anything else there. It was the hardest thing in football I ever did, really, to change clubs. In fact, I changed my mind a couple of times, and it was nothing to do with trying to frisk any extra pounds out of Carlton. Nothing to do with that at all. I just rang up and I said, I just can't do this.
I have told Ron that I would like nothing better than for him to play with Melbourne again, and if Ron did change his mind, which I think is most unlikely, well, he'd be more than welcome down at Melbourne, not only by the players, not only by myself, but also by the committee, and I'm sure by all supporters.
Just personally, it was one of the best things I ever did in footy.
The siren, and Carlton win the flag by 3 points, 7-14-56 to 8-5-53.
I think I've been very fortunate with my premierships as a coach, because at Carlton he had the sort of first one for 19 years, I think, so that's a hell of a reason to have a party. I don't think 1970 was important to me. It's been a huge thing in my life. It's been I've got a lot of adulation and pats on the back over it, but that's not important. But it thrilled a lot of people, and it's still up there today as the marquee grand final thrill.
One of the VFL's most memorable grand finals by 10 points, 17-9-111 to Collingwood's 14-17-101.
We all would have felt like gods. No one knows what God feels like. We know this, but we imagine. We just feel just a feeling of just such tremendous joy and mix of joy and power. I can do anything. I'm undefeatable. I'm bulletproof. That sort of stuff. It was a sensational thing. That's the same with probably every grand final, but this one was a real special one.
And joining us up on stage tonight, the man who's a former president of the Fitzroy Football Club and Olympian as well. Please welcome one of the finest wits, one of the great media men and president of the Carbine Club and great friend of Ron Barassi, Leon Wiegard.
Thank you, Eddie, for that, and it's very appropriate that the former president of Fitzroy is in fact asking the Carlton questions tonight, because I'm very used to looking after clubs in trouble. Now, Colo, talking about clubs in trouble, lovely place you've got here.
It's magnificent, isn't it?
How does Mary keep it clean? It's lovely. Colo, you were there when the big man arrived, and there'd be an opportunity for some disquiet there, I guess, but huge media stuff. How did the club handle it?
I think it was a great time for the club. It was the start of a new era and a very successful one, but it's probably not unlike what's happening at the moment. We'd finished 10th, the lowest position we had on the ladder, and of course new coach Barassi, and now Carlton's got a new coach in Pagan, so hopefully it'll be the start of a new era.
Did Ron ever say to you, you got something special, young fella?
Yes, when I used to beat him at table tennis and tennis. On the football field, he used to put me in the cotton wool all the time. He just said, you don't have to train here. I thought of you. That's why I think he's a fantastic bloke.
Robbie Walls, now, you've done a huge amount of coaching, fantastically successful right through your footy career. Ron is a guy, of course, that you could analyse for us in a number of ways, but as a coach.
Well, I went to Carlton when I was only 15. I was a local kid from Brunswick. And to see Ron Barassi down there, well, you were just in awe of him. And then to be coached by him was just one of the greatest breaks of luck that you could ever have. Because as John Kennedy said, he didn't teach you lessons just in football, but in life. The other thing about Barassi that I admired was that he was always bold, always daring, always prepared to take risks. And it's well documented what happened in the 70 grand final, but I think the play on at all costs, take your opponent on, play with dash and dare, it really was the way that football was played from 1970 on, particularly through the 70s and 80s. Football was fast and attractive, exciting to watch, and Ron Barassi is the reason for that.
What did he say? We've heard the Gettysburg address, we've heard every other thing. What did he say, Ali?
Well, this is true, what Ron Barassi said. You've probably heard a lot of stories about a great Ron Barassi going rah rah and all the words that he said. We come off at half-time, went 7 goals down, and naturally when you come off and you're down, nobody talks. So we walked into this room and there was all these Carlton people in the room, and not a word was said. And we're all waiting for something to be said, to happen, and we're waiting for Ron Barassi's great big tirade. Just before we ran out on the ground, and this is true, Ron Barassi made a couple of changes. He said Thornley off and Hopkins on, and it's up to you, you do it. That's all he said. And I think that shocked us into it.
Fellas, thanks very much. It was a magnificent era for the Carlton Football Club. Please put your hands again for Robert Walls, Ian Collins, Leon Wiegard doing the questioning, and Jezelenko, you beauty, one of the greats, and Alex Jezelenko.
Trotters after it. There's the siren. Siren's gone. North Melbourne's first ever flag. North Melbourne 19-8. 122, Hawthorn 9-13-67.
Now the North Melbourne time era, my time there was, it was an exciting time because North were setting the football world afire, off the field and on, and to be there at a time like that was just fantastic. And I do speak animatedly, a lot of Italian in me still. The blood's still there, and I didn't always use that method, by the way, because you'd never get away with it 18 times a season for a start. You've got to pick your marks. because there's some players who would they would get very angry and get so angry they just lose all concentration on their own game. Such would be the anger. Other players, I'll show you. That's what I learned that myself.
Bloody right! Daryl, you are a... What the hell are you doing? You've got the bloody football game beaten. You've come down here, not concentrated.
And joining us on stage, my co-host of the Footy Show, please welcome Trevor Marmalade.
Thank you very much, Ed. And yes, it is a great thrill for me to be here, Ed. Ever since I was knee-high, I've barracked for the Roos. My father, of course, before me, barracked for North Melbourne as well. And it wasn't like he indoctrinated me, though. He gave me a clear choice. He said, look, son, you can come to the football with me and barrack for the mighty Roos, or you can stay home and chop wood like your mother. So I was pretty committed to North, but probably for the earliest age of my childhood, I had cause to doubt the wisdom of that decision, because years went by and wins were few until the 10-year rule, and Ron Barassi, and not only Ron Barassi, but Barry Davis crossed over from Essendon to North and assumed the captaincy. Why did you do that, Barry?
Ron Joseph, Alan Aylett and Albert, they came to see me and I was very impressed with them. How could you be anything else but impressed? And I went for the challenge, and that's true.
Malcolm Blight, he gave you an absolute flogging.
Absolute gave me the shits. No, that's not quite true.
Well, Malcolm, of course, the famous incident was being dragged by Ron after kicking a brilliant goal on the left foot from the boundary line.
I did kick a left foot check side from the boundary from about 40 metres out, which was a bit of a no-no. You're supposed to centre it. But no one was actually in the goal square, so it just popped through the goals, and I got the hook. And the following week, Ron was writing for The Truth then, and he said he won't kick 1 in 20 and I'll run at him. And there was really no opposition player that particular day that made me do that. But anyhow, the following week we had 10 shots at goal from the pocket. There was a lot of media in the pocket, a lot of people in the North Melbourne Social Club in those days. And I think I managed to pop through 4 out of 10, hit the post 3 times and never missed out of the 10. He said, oh, that's crap, and just gave it up.
Slam and Sam, what was he really like for you? And tell us about the time you knocked him out.
I got no idea what he was like because I didn't train for the first 4 years when he was there. But by all reports, he was pretty good. But
well, I'll tell you what, mate. You've got to give those diuretics away too, mate. You're fading away.
Tell you what, Mum's sitting down over there too. She left the bag open. But the funniest Barassi story, and how long we got? Half an hour, have we, before the commercial break? Is a particular time when I must have been going through a good phase, because I was in his good books, and he split up a group into 2 halves. And he gave me a half to take charge of, and it was a simple drill, half up each end, ball in the middle where I was. The player would come out, pick up the ball, fend himself off me, who should tackle him, but tackle him fiercely, as he would always say, ferociously, pin the arms and roll him to the ground. And there I was with my group, we were just ambling past, picking the ball up. I'd slap them on the wrist, run through, then Wadey had come through. You know, it was almost like F-Troop. And there was Shimmer's group, really determined and, really, diligently motivated. And Barassi came out and he spotted my group. And he spotted me just going like that to Barry Goodingham. Well, with that, he's yelled out, and you know how a normal tirade of invective and unbridled abuse came out of his gob. And there I stood, and he said, "You disgrace," and words to that effect. And he said, "Get up the other end," and he said, "This is the way I want it done." He said, "You come and pick that ball up, and when you come through, I want you to accelerate, drop your shoulder, and I'll show you how it's tackled." Well, some of you may remember 25 years ago, I had a fair hit of speed up for a big man. And after the verbal, I also acquired a fair degree of angst. So what I did, I got up the other end and fair dinkum, put the foot right down the pedal or the foot or whatever, at 100 mile an hour, and picked the ball up very cleanly and also accelerated another K or 2. Dropped my shoulder and fair dinkum just split him right down the middle of the solar plexus. Well, he fell down like the proverbial bag of poop. And of course, the whole place was in a catatonic state, or trance-like. And then he got up, and I heard his ribs crack, and he got up and he said, "That's the way I want it done, son. That was great." Well, I reckon I was the most relieved man at Arden Street.
Well, Barassi, we had 4 of the greats up here from those days in North Melbourne, and I'm sure there's a number of people here wondering where one of your favourite players is tonight. And he popped up seemingly every time that Ron Barassi took over a club. He won 2 premierships at Carlton under Ron Barassi. He won 2 premierships at North Melbourne under Ron Barassi, and he even made his way to Melbourne when Ron went there with his 5-year plan. Unfortunately, ill health prevents him from being with us tonight, but earlier this week we sent Sam Newman to Tasmania to talk to one of the greats of the game, Brent Croswell.
Carlton pounce on the ball, Robertson kicking down the ground, where in a remarkable passage of individual play, Croswell completely outgenerals the opposition to score one of the finest goals of the grand final.
Well, let's be completely candid, Brent. It was a very volatile relationship with Ron over 3 different clubs, wasn't it?
No, you're right, and it was really volatile, yet it always wasn't always like that. I mean, I used to look up to him, and I used to often...
But you didn't take instruction well, did you?
Well, initially I did. I mean, I used to copy the way he walked and all those kinds of things. And after about 3 years, I then rebelled, you know, and...
Why?
Well, because I was firstly sick of football, and I was sick of being abused. I didn't like abuse. I didn't like Sunday training. I didn't like, for example, pre-season training. I didn't like training on Tuesday night. So there are a few reasons why he might not like me. I mean, you know, well, he liked me, but I don't think he really wanted to coach me all that much. I mean, at times, you know.
Well, you were in the inner sanctum when Ron was in full flight. Was it an awesome sight?
Yes, look, having played against him, I suppose you probably would have been hit by those flying teeth as they came out, and many a time I've seen those teeth fly out into mud on one occasion, and they disappeared, and he couldn't find the damn things. This is fair dinkum.
Okay, one word. How would you sum up Ron Barassi?
Well, I'd say willpower. I mean, there's no man I've ever met who's had more willpower than Ron Barassi, and it came through with the way he played chess, the way he played table tennis, and the way he played football. I mean, you've got to admire that.
What are some of the great memories that you thought, what am I doing here at this club with Ron standing over me?
Well, Barassi, I got the reputation at Carlton of being gay, you know, and one of the reasons I got that reputation was, I spent so much time in the toilets at half time, you know. But at the end, all the players used to turn up there, you know, and it was like the corner of Flinders Street. We were all either in the cubicles or sitting on the end of the bath. But strange enough, Barassi never ever came into the toilet area, which is really odd.
In typical storming fashion, Barassi warns Carlton against complacency. He knows every facet of grand final football, having participated in 8 as a player.
In case anyone has not realised this, you do love him, though.
Look, I think the world of the guy. I do. I want to see the guy immediately. Look, will you get him on the phone, will you? Or perhaps email him or something. Look, I don't see enough of him. You're right.
Well, the Swan Sing was only possible because my wife had agreed to run the pub, the Mountain View in Richmond, whilst I took on this job. If she hadn't have done that, I couldn't have done it, you know, as much as I would have liked to. I just felt myself so lucky to be back in a very important job like that in the 90s. I hadn't coached for 8 years. I'd kept in touch with footy via the media and selector for Victoria, stateside, etc. But it's not the same. It's not the same as actually being in there.
Barassi, if I can just start on a serious note, for those of us who were coached by you, you were a lateral thinker and a visionary, and only fitting that your tribute night tonight is in a stadium with a roof like this. Only you could have thought about it, but here it is reality. So congratulations on what should be a great night.
But the difference between this market, or this city, and Sydney, and I'll put my hand on my heart and say this, if Ron Barassi hadn't have come to Sydney, the Sydney Football Club would be no more, and I thank you, my friend, for saving our football club.
I thought I was going to get a crack at coaching because I was vice-captain, Robert Flower was injured. The game started at 8:07 and Barassi still hadn't turned up at 7:45. So I gathered all the guys as the vice-captain on the night, or the captain on the night, got them in, and just as I was about to launch into my first coaching speech, Ron burst through the door. He said, "Sit down, Healy, I'll tell you, you're playing on Schimmelbusch. He's a star. If you can keep him down, we'll win this bloody game." And he said to Stephen Smith, "You've got Blight. Schimmelbusch is beaten. If you can beat Blight, we're going to win the game." And he said to Jacko, and before he could tell Jacko what to say, Jacko bobbed up and said, "We're playing bloody Carlton, not North Melbourne."
And to do the things that I did with Melbourne was just amazing. And just to say thanks to you, Ron. I've met my wife here, and I've got a kid who's now an Australian. Can you believe it? Yes. Who would have thought I'd have an Australian kid, you know? Me being the most patriotic Irishman you could ever meet. But, you know, just to say to you, Ron, it's been an unbelievable journey for me over the last 18 years. And thanks for having the courage to go outside Australia and go somewhere where everyone thought you were crazy to go to. So it's great. Thanks for being here tonight.
Look, to me and most of all the people here in this room, and in particular in Australia that love Australian football, you're a superhero. And on behalf of all the fans, we'd like to thank your family for having you let us have him. So thanks to the family.
There's something that separates people from the rest, and that is the ability to just bring something extra out. And I do remember a final, I don't know what year it was, but Essendon played Melbourne, and Essendon, I think, held Melbourne on the run. And all of a sudden, you know, Barassi just ripped apart two packs and took two marks that he probably wasn't capable of taking, but he was able to just do that little bit above the ordinary. And as a footballer, you couldn't help admire him, and I've learned over the last few years, as a person, you cannot help but admire Ron, and I am now very, very proud to consider him a friend.
Terrific.
A third quarter, Geelong was playing Richmond, and Geelong kicked with a gale to the Bowen River or Reg Hickey end. It was just a 9-goal breeze, and Geelong kicked 9. We did get a news flash from the Weather Bureau that Ivan Longgrass, the senior forecaster, had told of a big cold front moving through the Otways towards the Western District, and that a sheep weather alert had been issued for Western District so that the graziers could put stock to higher ground. Ron Barassi, we need a comment from you. And Ron, by the way, for those farmers and graziers listening through our relays through Colac and 3YB Warrnambool, we have a sheep weather alert. And thank you very much, Ron. It's over to you. Yeah, before I talk about the wind, Rex, I just have to correct you. It is a sheet weather alert. Yes, thank you very much, Ron. It is a sheep weather alert warning farmers and graziers and primary producers to move stock to higher ground and to move young livestock into shelter pending the cold front. The lip went down and the white moustache went up and said it is a sheet weather alert to warn housewives in the metropolitan area to take their sheets off the line. I picked myself up off the ground, looked to see Ron wink, and he was dead serious. You idiot, Ron. Thank you very much.
And ladies and gentlemen, it is appropriate at this juncture in world history, with our armed forces again being moved towards a possible theatre of war, to welcome our special guest tonight. Please put your hands together and welcome to centre stage the Chief of the Australian Defence Force, General Peter Cosgrove.
Thanks, Eddie. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm privileged to be here. I represent so many marvellous young Australians, and I think they'd all be proud to see their old boss up here tonight for what is a marvellously national event. I would say there was one time when I saw Ron Barassi, the coach, in full flight, and you could see this energy, this drive, this leadership travelling out to them. Help was on the way. Barassi arrived in their midst. Their heads came up. They started to focus. They moved together. They were given his energy, his drive, his vision, his leadership, I'd like to bottle that as a tonic, the Ron Barassi Leadership Tonic. And I'd like all of my young men and women who find themselves under a bit of pressure, facing a challenge, to drink from that bottle, the Ron Barassi Leadership Tonic. So to you, Ron, I say, you're the son of a digger. You're a sporting Anzac. You're a great Australian. And your dad must be so proud of you. I just grew up in football. I was of football blood with my father, having played the game at the highest level, and a favoured son at the Melbourne Footy Club because of he was killed in the war. All of that led to me just cruising into the football scene, really, just so gradually that I didn't really notice it. I didn't, apart from a kid-like thing at the age of 6 or 7, saying that one of my ambitions was to be captain of the Melbourne Football Club. But every kid says that, and I would never have thought. It never drove me. I mean, my drive in footballs are just I didn't like getting beaten. That was my main thing. I was very determined about anything I went for. I'm led to believe that because of my father being killed and the closeness that my mother retained with the Melbourne Football Club, that when it came to look at the son and was showing some ability, and the link was quite emotional because of the death in war, naturally. And they purportedly put the idea of the father-son rule to the VFL, and it was agreed to immediately. I never thought I'd be so emotional. You know, I was there with my wife, Cheryl, and an English woman who'd kindly given us her time to go out and show us the cemetery. When we found the grave, the two girls just politely excused themselves, and I bawled like a little kid. You know, it was I couldn't believe I was like this. At one stage I got a huskiness in my throat, and it's in the open desert, fairly warm anyway, and I cleared my throat and spat on the ground, and I looked sort of, then realised I'd spat on my father's grave. And I said, "Oh, yeah, sorry, Dad." And I spoke to him.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Ronald Dale Barassi.
Protocol says that I should begin with the dignitaries in order. So here goes. The first one is His Excellency John Landy. I just want to say to John, I thought you spoke exceptionally well. And I've also got to say that in that race of yours where you ran back and picked up Ron Clark, well, I would not have done that. I'd like to thank Mum and Dad, my mother and my father, for putting me on this planet. For putting me on this planet with the right set of genes, in the right place, at the right time. This is one of the first times this type of thing has been done in Melbourne, maybe Australia, I don't know about that. But to be connected with it in any way, let alone the recipient, I tell you, it's fantastic. I just will never, ever forget this night. While these contradictions are there, you can count on me for a few things. I'll be fair dinkum. I have a dip. I won't play favourites. And I'm not scared to try untried things. And I won't play politics. I believe in Norm Smith's definition of success, which is, it isn't what you achieve. It's what you should achieve with what you have. I think my footy life could be summed up like this. I've swanned around a bit. I've made a few blues. I've hopped into life like a demon. But that's me. I like football. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the final time tonight, please put your hands together for Ron Barassi.
This has been another presentation from Nine's Wide World of Sports.